this is Madison Nelson. As I'm going to continue on, make this video, this is towards the end of Leviticus. Previously I was talking about, basically Leviticus is about, different laws and regulations that God, has, put in place. And as y'all know, Moses and Aaron, were those who God had used Moses and Aaron as well to, lead his flock and to, send out his commandments and instructions for those, the Israelites, to abide by, And as I continue on, the laws get deeper and deeper, but I go over a few things. So, as it speaks for itself, the God who is holy requires holiness. So, you have to, not live by the flesh, but live by the Spirit. It's sort of like born again. Because, for example, if you're born of the world, not born of the world, the Bible says, "Be not of the world." So what that means is, as far as the flesh, that's the enemy. Flesh is, different desires that we have, different things that we do that's not according to God's will. So, he's saying, born again, put that on the cross, live by the Holy Spirit, by the Spirit, in spirit and in truth. So, of course, the closer you get to God, the more you get attacked. But at the end of the day, what basically can't God do? God is the Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the ending. He can do everything, and through him all things are possible. So this is just, and honestly, of course, on this walk with God is hard, and it's not easy, but it's not supposed to be easy. But I'd rather be on the walk with God than without God, especially in these end times. Okay, so there's 7 feasts of the Lord. Now this here is a calendar. As you can see here, it's different. I think it's Hebrew names, but of course, as you see, it's the calendar that we go by. But basically, fall, they have tabernacles, atonements, and trumpets. It's different days they have, okay, and different feasts they have. And spring, they have different feasts: Passover, unleavened bread, and first fruits, and Pentecost. Okay, so that's basically what that is. Now, with the first harvest, what that basically is, the Lord gave this, instructions to Moses. He basically said, when you enter the land that He's giving you, and harvest his first crop, bring a priest a bundle of grain for cutting the grain harvest. So basically, what He's saying, He gave the land. They were stepping into a new land, and since they were stepping into a new land, from what I understand, that's basically was celebrating the first harvest. And that's basically what He was saying. Now, it would, like I said, there were different harvests and different festivals and things like that. So, as you can see here, this is kind of a calendar for the Lord. 3 festivals for God's people: the festival of unleavened bread, the festival of harvest, first fruits, the festival of ingathering. Okay, so that's basically self-explanatory. The festival of unleavened bread was Independence Day. It's remembering the Exodus. Don't forget to prepare the lamb and sacrifice it. Springtime planting, the festival of first fruits and harvest. And what a harvest is, stepping into your harvest, that's the first fruits. That's basically, blessings, harvest, abundance. So it says anticipated good planting. And of course, when you plant a seed in the ground, what does it do? It sprouts up. And He says all we need is faith as small as a mustard seed. So we have different seasons for everything. It's a season for in my opinion, it's a season for pain. It's a season for growth. A season for restoration, for a little bit of everything. It's a season for everything and a time for everything. But it's all in God's plan for each and every one of our lives. So the festival of ingathering, that's like a wedding day for the faithful, and it's a terrible time of testing for the unfaithful. So it's not good for them. Now, 7 work days for God's Messiah. You have Passover, things the Lord did, unleavened bread. He gave His life. First fruits, He was buried. He was raised. Pentecost, He gave the Spirit, the trumpets, afflicting souls, and to deal with the faithless world. Tabernacles, basically. Churches, those, the place of worship. That's what, it started. That's what He built it for, so we can celebrate, and so we could, save souls and bring the lost souls who are in darkness can come into the light. So, that's basically the work days, of course. So, keep going forward, I'm going to talk a little bit about purification also. Now, of course, our body is made up of I think it's like 60% water, something like that. But long story short, as far as purification and everything like that, you know, putting the flesh away and basically killing the flesh, you know, that's basically like, you know, say for example, if you're addicted to something, and you know, you quit it. Say if it was cigarettes or drugs or alcohol, something that basically you weren't supposed to be doing, and you know, through God you quit it and you were able to receive it. That's basically putting, you know, killing the flesh. You know, old desires, old things you used to do, and before you knew Jesus, basically. So part of that, I think I talked in the previous video, was about fasting. Now, if you think about, our body is made up of mostly water. There's different fasting. With different fasting in the Bible, you have water, you have juice fast, you have just eating everything but meat, you know, things like that. So as far as I feel, you know, I like, me personally, I like water fast. You know, you have 3-day fast, 5-day fast, 40-day fast, things like that. And you know, of course, you want to dig in the Word as much as you can, because it's always, you know, you don't, even if you read at one time, you know, you can't never stop reading the book of life enough and learn something, you know, about how to go about life and live about it. But you know, as far as being purified, you know, as far as water, you know, it's basically, it'll let you know, as far as fasting, you know, what's inside you, what needs to go, and basically, you know, especially if you're in, you know, spiritual warfare, whatever the case may be, it basically helps to draw you closer to Jesus at the end of the day, and it helps you to be a better person overall, inside and out. You know, it's just like if you wanted to, you know, we could all fast from a lot of different things. You know, I think I previously spoke about it. Social media. It's a lot of different things. You know, basically something that can hinder you from drawing close to the Lord, or basically something that you want to let go of. You know, it could be a lot of things. It could even be a past relationship. You know, just or just, you know, certain things is not good for you. If you want to lose weight, you know, you can fast from eating sweets, different things like that. You know, for example, with you know, children, you know, like games. You know, everybody has games that they play, and it's important a lot. You know, not for them to build up addictive habits, because you know, nowadays mobile phones and technology and social media is, you know, with 2 billion people on Facebook every day or something like that, that's telling you right there where a lot of our energy and time goes into, especially if you're not doing nothing productive for your life, you know, or working towards something. You know, it's alright to, you know, to browse around, but I'm talking about if it could become addiction, and it's actually scary, because if you don't rule your day, the day will rule you, and that's kind of like being of the world. So that's why, you know, I was just kind of putting that out there. That's why it's important to kind of fast and, you know, kill the flesh. You know, so with this right here, these were basically the kind of go in a little more detail about the different festivals that I was talking about. Now, the trumpets, it was just one day, the blowing of the trumpets. This was the beginning of the 7th month, so the Silver New Year. And of course, the 7th month in this year is July. So the Day of Atonement, this was one day, and this was the atonement of sin from the people of the nation until Christ's death will remove it permanently. So of course, when you think about all the sins, you know, we are sinners saved by grace as far as believers. So we sin, you know, it could be something from something small to something big. Of course, the goal is to what? Before he died on the cross for our sins, you know, they had to give offerings back in biblical times. But when Jesus died on the cross for our sins, he was buried and rose again. You know, that's what he paid, and that's why, you know, when you look back over your life, when I look back over my life, I'm not going to get into it, but you know, I can't do nothing but thank God, you know, for dying on the cross for my sins. And I'm glad that I found him. You know, I basically found him, and you know, I was of the world, and then I came back to the God, and I'm never going to leave him. So, especially in these end times. So it's just a blessing. And through all the, you know, the crap that's going on in the world, you still can see how God is working things out. You know, one thing I want to touch on is some people say, you know, well, you know, some people, you know, they look at it like, well, I'm not going to go to this and that, or I'm not going to go to church, and I'm not going to go to this, because they actually have, you know, it's different things they have, you know, that kind of draw you away from it. But at the end of the day, the goal is to have a relationship, not a religion. You know, if you have your own relationship with God, that's all you need. You know, if you choose to go, of course, going to church is a place of worship, to be around like-minded people, you know, believers of the gospel, believers of the Word of God. And that's the best thing to be, you know, be around believers and be around those. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that go on with it, because they say the devil shows up at church as well, you know. It could be in a dress or a suit. But, you know, the goal is to have a relationship with God at the end of the day. So these were just basically what was celebrated at these festivals. And also you have God's plans for a successful society was Jubilee and the Sabbath year. Okay, and that's basically what it was. Okay, now this is just a prime example, you know, of I like this image because, for one, it just talks about how when you're on the right path and you following God, you know, that's what it leads you to basically green. And it don't have to necessarily be money. It could be peace of mind. It could be strength. It could be patience. It could be guidance. It could be getting over a grudge. Just change you. You know, transformation is just making you a better person overall. So, like I said in the book, Leviticus, was a lot of laws. And I'll jump into one, for example, okay? Now, as far as punishments for disobedience, and this kind of threw me off a little bit because he said, for those who, you know, basically are disobedient to him, okay, if they refuse to listen and remain hostile toward him, he would say, you know, he will punish you 7 times over for your sins. So he said, you know, he will basically, you know, make you pay. And one thing he said, he will demoralize you in the land of your enemies. You know, so that means, of course, you know, your enemies will see him get the best of you. And he said, you will live in such fear that the sound of a leaf driven by the wind will send you fleeing. You know, you will run as though fleeing from a sword, and you will fall even when no one pursues you. So just imagine, you know, just imagine a Goliath, right? You know, David and Goliath, you know how David beat the big giant Goliath. Just imagine a Goliath. He said, you know, and this is one of the punishments for disobedience. He said, you're being so much fear. So imagine a big giant running from a leaf, and you know how, of course, in the fall, you know, when you're walking around or something, you know, it's windy outside and the leaves blowing. So just imagine, you know, having fear, you know, that letting that instill fear inside of you. You know, that's the power of God for being disobedient. So that tell you right there, you know, if you a big giant running from a leaf, you know, that's the fear of the Lord. And it's still prevalent out here in our society, even though it may seem like it's not. It's still prevalent out there, you know. And like, God is still in control no matter what it looks like. So he says, listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and strength. And that's what I believe. You know, you love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength, then you'll hear the Lord. You know, and you know, you're asking to speak to your heart, speak to your soul, and give you strength day by day. Because honestly, like I said, this walk is difficult with the Lord. It's not meant to be easy though, but I know it's a time for everything. It's a season for everything. But there's laws and regulations, and you know, one also, you know, making peace with your enemies and different things like that. You know, so it's a growth process. But you know, you go through things to grow through things. Okay, and that's just life in general. But I'd rather grow through things with the Lord. You know, so ways to approach God, ways to maintain fellowship with God. This was basically a little more background on what he was explaining. Laws for society in the promised land, redemption of property. He allowed people to buy back land before Jubilee, as I was talking about, the Sabbath year, anytime they had the funds. The house on the land doesn't revert back with the land of Jubilee. The house of the Levites sold in the cities to revert back. Those basically different rules and regulations that he allowed. Okay, basically redemption of gifts offered to the Lord and things like that. So, also in Leviticus, you know, sacrifices, priesthood of Aaron, ritual cleanliness, holiness of conduct, Sabbath and feast, preparation of punishments, sanctification of the land, promises and warnings, thanksgiving. So this is basically a general overview of Leviticus in essence. And as far as redemption of tithes, now of course he said, bring these tithes to the storehouse. So what that means, you know how some people, they say, you know, some people honestly, you know, God is not Santa Claus. So, you know, of course, when I was growing up, you know, going to church, I didn't know who from what. All I know was I had to go, and I'm thankful now that my mom was taking me and making me go to church. You know, I accepted Christ, I believe, when I was about 16. I didn't know, you know, everything, of course, because you're young, you know, but, you know, I got entangled in the world a little bit, well, more than a little bit, but, you know, Lord willing, when I became a man, you know, it says, put away childish things, and I found God again, and now, you know, I'm sticking with him, and, I'm basically, you know, sharing with my family and, you know, doing the right thing, you know, doing my daily duties as a man, and also, you know, raising my kids up and passing down the principles and values that my parents instilled in me, you know, about Jesus and about God. Because we all live in the end times no matter what it looks like, you know, so that's why, you know, it's just important to have a relationship with God and just to You know, we all have different purposes and things like that, but it's important to have a relationship with God, especially in this end times, and families as well. You know, because that's where it starts at. You know, as far as I'm concerned, God says, you know, your family. You know, that's basically where it starts at. You know, so with that being said, as far as tithes in the storehouse, you know, you're required to pay, you know, 10% of your earnings, you know, and basically the Lord says He'll bless you 10 times fold. Now, you know, some people take that for granted and say, okay, well, everything's going to the pastor, this and that, and that's where you have to get into your word and get into your knowledge of the Lord, because, you know, blessings don't necessarily come in the form of money. When you know, blessings could come in the form of peace of mind. It could come in the form of not beating that person up. You see at the job every day that you don't speak to, but they keep, you know, a little bit of everything. You know, drama could be, you know, a little bit of everything. You know, not falling into temptations of, you know, things that were, you know, were in the past. A lot of different things. You know, but that takes basically self-control and willpower. But I'm talking about as far as tithing. You know, if you think about, you know, we all committed sins and we all did things in our life that I'm sure we regret, because nobody's perfect at the end of the day. So now I know they do have these little, I guess you could call them holy rollers, those that are showing how their lifestyle are, and I disagree with that. You know, they're all false prophets out there and everything like that. So I'm not going to be all big and nonchalant and say I'm this and that. You know, I'm still a work in progress, but you know, when the Lord basically speaks to you, you gotta listen, no matter what. And so that's why, you know, I'm doing what I'm doing now. So Deuteronomy, the blessings for obedience, curses for disobedience. I just shared with you one of them, and there was blessings of obedience and penalties of disobedience. Okay, and that's basically pretty much what it is in Leviticus. Okay, the rules and regulations, and the hope. And it says, I'll read it. The whole purpose of God and redemption is to make us holy and to restore us to the image of God, and that's what we want to be. You know. No matter what we go through or grow through in life, we want to be, you know, creating the image of God, to be more like God. We can't be Him, but we got to, you know, to just try to walk like Him and be like Him and live like Him. And our life will, you know, through whatever we go through, you know, we'll be stronger, we'll be wiser. You know, that's what He gives us, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And that's why every day I got to be thankful for the air I breathe and the ground I walk on. And I think everybody else needs to too, because, like I said, so many people die every day. So many people are underprivileged. You know, I've seen a story about how over there, how, you know, the kids were sniffing glue just to take away the cravings of the food because they didn't have it, and also how you know, a lot of Christians over there are being persecuted. You know, they're being actually burnt alive and all types of things, raped, tortured for just being Christians. So, you know, you just got to take it day by day and, you know, just appreciate life. But I definitely would rather have a relationship with Jesus in these last days than not. You know, because you never know when your last day could be, so you just got to appreciate it, take it one day at a time. And basically that's what Leviticus was, are the statutes and rules and laws that the Lord made between Himself and the people of Israel through Moses on Mount Sinai. And through all of it, you know, is basically, it was a lot, you know, and that's basically, He put the rules in place and set them in stone, you know, with the commandments and everything, and He added on more to it. So that's basically what the book of Leviticus was about. And, you know, that's why I just, you know, always important to stay humble and just to stay focused and just to, you know, life is too short for all the nonsense. Just, you know, even if you don't have a relationship with God, I would strongly suggest to just, you know, just try to be a better you, and, you know, each and every day. So with that being said, I'll see everybody later, and, you know, just let go and let God.